Hey, my name's Josh. I'm from Kiss The Hippo, a coffee roastery based in London, UK, and I'm here as one of your leaderboard coaches. I come up from the barista world, but I've got a lot of experience in roasting and grain bind, and I am here to pass on a bit of that knowledge to you. If you're like me and you've had a lot of experience in competition and you do the barista comps, the Brewer Cup comps, which I've been fortunate enough to both compete in and roast a lot of coffee for people who have done, or if you're a barista or a cafe owner and you want to be able to talk more about your coffee and learn more about your coffee, or if you're at home and you are a big fan of coffee and you want to just really dive into it, this one's for you. We're going to be talking about cupping, scoring, getting to the final score of your coffee. Scoring coffee is massively important because what it does is create a common language for us all to speak about the millions of different coffees out there in the world. So, coffee has so much variety, so much differences, so much complexity. It's hard to know about every single lot, but with scoring, we can talk about it. And so you can say this is an 87 from this place, and I know what an 87 is like, so I got a sense of that coffee. And so this is really helpful if you're trying to find coffees, if you're in competition, if you're running a cafe and you want to speak to your roasters about more specific about what you want, or if you are someone at home who's brewing coffee and wants to speak to a roaster and be like, you know what, turns out I really love 88s. I want an 88, and that's what I'm looking for. You can get, this will help you because you'll be able to talk more effectively about the coffee to get the coffee you want. You're gonna need two things for this. You're gonna need the SEA cupping sheet, which you can find right or probably alongside the SEA flavor wheels, the other thing. Both of them available in your friendly neighborhood Google. Type that in, hit images, pull them up. You're gonna need them. We're gonna start with the cupping sheet. So when you look at the cupping sheet, you're gonna see tons of numbers. Now it's kind of overwhelming, and remember, this thing is supposed to be used for the professional place of cupping coffee with 5 bowls, and it's really, really meant to be quite proper, and this whole system of cupping, which I'm not gonna dive into that aspect. What I am gonna dive in though is using this sheet to get to a number. Specialty coffee starts at 80. That's what this sheet is gonna figure out. Where does it sit? Is it specialty coffee? Is it even an 80? Or is it way above or below? So when you look at this, you can have a lot of different categories. You got really kind of 2 different ways that you have these categories shown. You got the one way with the little notches where your score can go up by 0.25 at a time, or you have the other ones which has the 5 boxes. And so an example of the first one would be the fragrance category, an example of the second one would be the sweetness category. And the little boxes one, each of those boxes are worth 2 points. And so if you manage to get your coffee and they all taste, you get all of those 5 boxes, so you get all of those 30 points in those little boxes, you're gonna need a 7.14 on average in every other category to equal specialty coffee. That means there's a big range. Got a lot of numbers before 7.14. So coffee can be pretty mediocre in every way, but maybe 1, and that just pushes over the edge. By breaking a coffee apart like this, we can begin to appreciate the idiosyncrasies of it, the unique bits of each of the quality aspect of it. And so we can say that that coffee actually, it's kind of mediocre in every way, but man, it's got a great acidity, specialty. And so this is really fun to explore. I'm just going to do a quick overview of this because mainly what I want to teach you today is a bit of a cheat code on how to get really quick and better at cupping effectively. So the first thing you want to learn is in each category, you've got your fragrance. That's how that smells. So when you're cupping, you've got the dry aroma, hot ground coffee. You got the wet when it's brewing. And you've got your break that happens. And so you're getting how does it smell? Is it unique or kind of generic? You've got the flavor, unique flavors, or is it generic? Aftertaste, what it's like when you're done drinking and it's left. It's still there in your throat, tasting like, oh man, it tasted amazing. I got strawberry jam a little bit there. So that would be a great aftertaste. Then you got acidity and body. These two are really interesting because it's not about intensity, it's about quality. So you can have a massively intense acidic cup. I'm like, oh my God, It's it's almost sour. It's really high, but it's not displaying anything. It's really generic. I don't really like it, so it's a low score. And same thing with body. You have an incredibly low body, like, oh my god, it's like tea, and barely anything there. But like, wow, is it like tea? It's like jasmine tea. This is great. High points because it works. It's all about it being complementary. It's about it working together. Next, you got your balance, and this is where this is really expressed. So think about like listening to music. Like if you go to a show and you've got, the guitar is like way too loud. It doesn't like fit. It's the drums are way too loud, the bass is too loud. So it's about all of them working in harmony. So these characteristics might have their own like unique elements to them. Make sure you'll display themselves at different levels of skill. You can have a bad drummer in a great band. But it's all about the sound being in balance. And so balance is about coexistence, the synergy of all the other attributes. You got uniformity. So in a cupping table, each one of them's a bowl. They all taste basically the same, consistent. You then got sweetness, specialty coffee sweet. So you want to make sure those boxes are being ticked for specialty coffee being deliciously sweet. You don't want it to be bitter. You don't want it to be bland. You want it to be sweet. And then you've got clean cup, which means it's free of defects. If you want to learn more about defect, check out the SEA defect book. Tons of information in there. Defects are a little bit hard to learn when you're, say, brewing at home, or if you're, bursting in a shop, just because so much work is trying to be done to keep defects away. So you might have to explicitly ask someone for some defects, which is kind of hard to find, but they're out there. But to learn defects is to really get to learn how coffee production changes coffee in a very obvious way, and all the hard work they're doing. Last is overall. So this is, if you look at every other category you've put a score in, you kind of like take like an average percentage impression of everything else. You can also imprint a little bit of your preference on there as well, but only a little bit. You can't have 6s in every category and give it a 10. You can't have 10 in every category and give it a 6. You got to kind of like be honest with what it's like. This will pump up a score. And so this is super helpful because now you've got this thing that's broken down every attribute of a coffee, but you have a final score that summarizes it, gives it this kind of like seal of like, this is how it is. So when we're looking at this, it's really hard because there's a lot to learn here. So how do you get better at it? I recommend using the second tool I mentioned, SCA Flavor Wheel. And if you want to bring that up, because you're going to need it, first thing you'll notice is there's like 3 layers to everything. And as it goes out, it gets more specific. So what do? We start with pretending we're snap dab in the middle of that thing. And if we're snap dab in the middle of that thing, we're at generic coffee land. That little gray bit in the middle, that's generic coffee. It's not specialty coffee. Specialty coffee has to have those attributes that you see, the positive ones in the inner layer. So that inner layer has good attributes and bad attributes. Specialty coffee can be described as effectively as those kind of good attributes. So specialty coffee is going to have to be fruity or floral or sweet or have cocoa or spices or roasted. It has to have like some of these at least basic good quality stuff. If it can't even be described that far, if you're just kind of like, it's got nothing, it's just like, I can't even describe it that well, it's not an 80. It just definitely is not an 80. This is an 80 at least will get you there. That's not saying that like you can have all that stuff, but then it's full of defects, and then it's not specialty as well. But if it's not full of any defects, it tastes sweet, it's uniform, and you can describe it like has a fruitiness, it's a good chance that's an 80. So now we jump up. What makes it an 85? And that's when we're in the next layer, where we can describe, say, the sweetness, like brown sugar, where we can describe the nuttiness or the cacao-ness of it, where we can describe the citrus fruit quality. This is specific enough that it is an 85. So if you're on the score sheet and you're wondering, like, damn, what do I put in for flavor? Well, I know it's more than fruity. I know it's citrus fruit. That's probably then around that 7.14 point, right? So you can kind of use this as a tool to understand where you are on the score sheet with any given coffee. The next layer, that's probably going to be about an 86, 87, where you can start to describe it all the way to like, I don't know, cinnamon or clove or something like that. That's a little specific. It's not massively specific, and that's why we got to imagine there's one more layer around the outside. where we take things from, say, being like peach and we take it to white peach, or we take something like orange and we go all the way to blood orange. And that's the realm of the 88 plus, where coffee is so specifically, so high fidelity of flavor to what these notes are, you can describe them. And so you can kind of just work your way out. Remember, if you're in the middle of the gray land, can't describe it that close, not specialty. First layer, probably specialty. It's fruity, it's nice. Now you're wondering if you're around the 85 range. Let's say citrus fruit, we've got something like that. We've got a little bit of nuttiness, probably around maybe an 85, 84, 85. And then you want to go one layer out. There we go. We're at 86, 87. But we got to go to that outer layer, specific flavor notes, specific kinds of things. And that's when we're in those high 80s, high 90s. You're not going to have a 90 scoring coffee with generic flavor notes. High scores are to celebrate rarity and the difficulty of achieving these really pleasant notes, you know? And so that's what it's supposed to do. All right, I hope I've helped you kind of demystify a little bit of scoring. I know it can be overwhelming, it can be difficult, but trust me, if you learn how to score, you'll learn how to talk a lot better, and you'll learn how to get the coffee you want a lot easier, because you'll be able to say, I just want an 87. I just want an 88. I want that 99 scoring coffee. You'll be able to talk about it. And the moment you can give it a name, it makes it easier to find it. So have fun, enjoy the scoring. It's a bit of a journey. The more you do it, the better you will get at it. Trust me, enjoy.